Bunny Hops and Hidden Art, a love story. You're going to regret this, I say to myself, swiping sweat off my brow. But it's for the kids. I convince myself for the umpteenth time as I stand before the sea of hyperactive little humans, their eyes glinting with sugar and excitement. Okay, everyone, gather round. I shout, waving my arms like a madwoman. They swarm like a pack of hungry piranhas. All right, who's ready to learn the bunny hop? The cacophony of squeals that follow is not unlike nails on a chalkboard, but I press on. It's simple, really. Before I can finish, a pint-sized tornado crashes into me, knocking me to the wet grass. Sorry, miss, the little girl says, her cheeks rosier than a freshly boiled lobster. I laugh, brushing off the dirt. Looks like someone's had a bit too much excitement, I say, trying to make light of the situation. The adults chuckle, while the kids stare at me, their eyes as wide as the full moons that lurk in their bedtime stories. The sun beats down, turning my sweater into a soggy mess. I can't wait to get out of here and back to my air-conditioned apartment and my cat, Mr. Whiskers, who definitely appreciates my dance moves more than these tiny humans. Summary Carrot 1. The narrator, Emma, reluctantly leads a group of children in the bunny hop at a company picnic. Despite her distaste for the task, she tries to be cheerful for the kids. When a child accidentally knocks her down, she jokes about it, revealing her desire to leave and return to her quiet life with her cat, Mr. Whiskers. But then, like a mirage in the desert, she appears. Jory, the girl with the laugh that sounds like a bell and the smile that could make a statue's heart skip a beat. She's talking to Trish, the HR dragon, and I swear I see her glance my way. She's wearing a bunny costume. Not just any bunny costume. A giant, fluffy, white one that's definitely going to give me nightmares tonight. Oh, please, I murmur. Let that not be happening. But as the music starts, I see the unmistakable twitch of her ear. She's the Easter Bunny. And she's coming straight for me. Emma, come help, she calls out, her voice muffled by the giant rabbit head. The kids are going wild. I force a smile and wade through the melee, wondering if it's possible to get fired for assaulting the company mascot. But when I reach her, she pulls me aside, and the look in her eyes tells me she's not here to hand out eggs. She's got a plan. I need a break, she says, tugging at the costume. Take over. And before I can protest, she's thrusting the head into my arms. But you're the best dancer here, she whispers. Make it good. And with that, she disappears into the throng of kids, leaving me with a grinning plush nightmare. Summary Carrot 1. Jory, the object of the narrator's affection, arrives in a giant Easter bunny costume. She enlists the narrator's help, handing over the bunny head and asking them to take over. She whispers that the narrator is the best dancer present, hinting at a hidden talent she's noticed, and then vanishes into the crowd of children. So, I take a deep breath, slap on the head, and dive into the chaos. The music is a cheesy pop tune that's been stuck in my head for weeks, and I can't help but feel ridiculous. But the kids, bless their little souls, they don't see me. They see the Easter Bunny, and that's all that matters. They laugh and cheer as I hop and twirl, and for a moment, I forget about the sweat stains and the awkwardness of my situation. I'm just the person who brings joy to their sugar-fueled day. And somehow, that's enough. After what feels like an eternity, the song ends, and the kids run off to terrorize their parents with their newfound dance moves. I peel off the costume and let out a sigh of relief. Jory's nowhere to be seen, which is fine by me. I've had enough of playing dress-up. But as I start to walk away, a little hand tugs at my sweater. It's the girl who knocked me down earlier. Miss, she says, her eyes wide and hopeful. Can you teach me to bunny hop? And for some reason, maybe because I've got Jory on the brain, I don't feel like screaming anymore. Summary Carrot 1. The narrator, Emma, puts on the bunny costume and performs the bunny hop with the children, finding joy in their reactions. Despite feeling ridiculous, the kids' enthusiasm makes the task bearable. After the performance, a child asks Emma to teach her the dance move, which she does, still thinking of Jory and the potential romance brewing between them. We practice in the shade of the tent, her giggles filling me with a warmth that not even the sun can match. And when she finally gets it, her smile lights up the whole field. "Thanks, miss," she says, running off to show her friends. And as I watch her go, I realize that maybe, just maybe, the fun committee isn't the worst thing in the world. And maybe, just maybe, taking a chance on love isn't either. I wipe the sweat from my forehead and spot Jory across the field, peeking out from behind a tree. She's not wearing the costume anymore. She's just watching me, her eyes shining like the chocolate in those eggs. And suddenly, I know exactly what I'm going to do next. I walk over, trying to play it cool, trying not to let my heart jump out of my chest. "You know, I've got this whole art thing going on," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "And I've always wanted to do more than just sit in a cubicle all day." She nods, her eyes still on me, waiting for what's coming next. "So, what do you say?" I swallow hard. "Want to get out of here and grab some coffee?" She smiles, that sweet, secretive smile, and says, "I'd love to." And just like that, the air around us changes. It's not about the job anymore. It's not about the costumes or the awkward flirting. It's about us and the possibility of something more. Summary Carrot 1. Emma finds joy in teaching a child the bunny hop, which lifts her spirits about the fun committee. Spotting Jory watching from afar, she approaches and brings up her desire to pursue art full-time. The conversation shifts to a more personal level, and when Emma suggests they get coffee together, Jory accepts, hinting at a growing bond beyond work. The rest of the picnic is a blur of plastic eggs and chocolate bunnies. I keep stealing glances at Jory, my heart racing every time she laughs or smiles. We help clean up, our conversations a mix of workplace gossip and shared dreams of escaping to a life of art and freedom. When it's finally time to leave, I grab my bag, feeling a weird mix of excitement and nerves. "Ready," she says, her voice low, and I nod, trying to keep the grin off my face. We find a cafe not far from the park, one of those hip places with mismatched furniture and a chalkboard menu that makes me feel like I'm in a movie about people with artistic aspirations. She orders a mint mocha, and I get a plain black coffee because that's what real artists drink, obviously. We sit outside, the sun playing hide and seek behind clouds that look like they've been painted with watercolor brushes. She takes a sip, licks the whipped cream off her upper lip, and says, "So, tell me about your art." And I do. I talk about the sketches I hide in my desk drawer, the paintings that cover my walls, the way color makes me feel alive. And she listens, really listens, her eyes lighting up like Christmas trees. As we sit there, the wind picks up, sending a chill down my spine. Jory notices and takes off her sweater, wrapping it around my shoulders. It smells like her, faintly of chocolate and sunscreen. "Thanks," I murmur, feeling the warmth spread through me. She smiles, and the conversation drifts to our favorite movies, our worst dates, our hopes for the future. It's easy, like we've been doing this forever. And when the time comes to ask her out again, it feels like the most natural thing in the world. "So," I say, playing with the cardboard stirrer in my coffee, "do you want to do this again?" She laughs, and my heart does a little flip. "But without the bunny costume?" "Deal." I can't believe it! We're actually going to do this. We're going to take this thing outside of work and see where it goes. And as we sit there, the world spinning around us, I know that no matter what happens, I'll never regret joining the fun committee. Because it led me to her. We finish our drinks, the conversation flowing as easily as the river we drove past to get here. As we stand up to leave, she takes my hand in hers, and it feels like the most natural thing in the world. The sun has dipped low in the sky, painting the clouds in hues of pink and orange. "Let's walk a bit," she says, and we meander down the street, the cafe's chalkboard menu fading into the background. Her hand is warm and familiar, sending shivers up my arm. We stop outside an art store, the windows filled with paints and brushes and canvases. She looks at me, her eyes filled with something unspoken. And before I can even think about it, I'm blurting out, "I've never painted anything before." "Really?" She seems surprised. "You should try it. It's freeing." And suddenly, the idea doesn't seem so crazy. Maybe it's the way she's looking at me, or the way her hand feels in mine, but I'm willing to try anything with her. We go inside, the smell of acrylics and fresh paper making me feel like I've come home. She shows me the basics, her voice patient and gentle. We pick out a few supplies, and she even buys me a canvas. "A souvenir," she says with a wink, "for when you finally leave that soul-sucking job behind." We walk back to the park, the canvas tucked under my arm like a trophy. The sun is setting, casting a warm glow over the grass and the pond where families are feeding ducks. We sit on a bench, the paint and brushes laid out before us. "What are you going to paint?" she asks. I look around, feeling the weight of the moment. "You," I say without thinking. She blushes, a deep, beautiful red that matches the sky. And she doesn't say no. We sit in the quiet of the early evening, the sounds of the park fading into the background. I've never felt so alive, so full of possibility. I dip the brush into the paint, and the first stroke is a mess, but she doesn't laugh. She just sits there, watching me, her eyes full of something that makes me feel like I could do anything. And maybe, just maybe I can. As the colors mix and mingle on the canvas, I realize that this is what love is supposed to feel like. Like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump, but you're not afraid because you know they'll be there to catch you. And as the night falls and the stars come out, I know that no matter what happens next, I've found something beautiful in the most unexpected of places. The fun committee might have started as a way to get closer to her, but now it's so much more. It's the beginning of a story, one that I never want to end. And as we pack up our supplies and walk back to the car, her hand in mine, I can't help but feel like maybe, just maybe, this was all worth it. The awkwardness, the costumes, the endless cups of coffee. Because it brought me to this moment with Jory under the stars, creating something beautiful together. And who knows? Maybe this is just the start of our masterpiece. We get to her car, and she opens the door for me, her hand lingering on the handle. "Thank you," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "For what?" She looks genuinely confused. "For being here," I say, looking into her eyes. "For making this day bearable." She smiles, a soft, gentle curve of her lips that makes my heart ache. "You make every day bearable," she murmurs, and before I can even think, she's leaning in, her mouth on mine. The kiss is soft and sweet, like the chocolate we've been handing out all afternoon, but it's so much more than that. It's a promise, a whispered secret that we're sharing in the open air. And when she pulls back, her eyes are shining with something that makes me feel like I could fly. We drive back to the office to drop off the costumes and the remaining supplies, the silence in the car thick with unspoken words. The tension is palpable, my heart racing in my chest. I want to tell her everything, all the things I've kept bottled up for so long. But I don't know if she feels the same way. We pull into the parking lot, the lights of the building casting long shadows across the pavement. She puts the car in park and looks over at me. "Do you want to come over tonight?" she says, her voice a little shaky. And suddenly, the world is spinning, and all I can think is yes. Yes, I want to go to her place and talk and laugh and maybe, just maybe, kiss her again. But I know we can't. Not yet. I can't, I say, hating the words as they leave my mouth. I've got plans. She nods, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Another time then? Definitely, I say, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. But I can't tonight. She nods again, and the disappointment in her eyes is like a knife in my chest. Okay, she says, and I can tell she's trying to be understanding. It's just I don't want to mess up what we have at work, I explain, my voice barely above a murmur. I know, she says, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. But maybe it's already messed up. And before I can say anything, she's leaning over, her mouth on mine, and all the fear and doubt evaporate. For a moment, we're just two people in a car, kissing like the world isn't watching. But it is watching, and it's waiting for us to make our next move. When we finally break apart, I know that I can't just walk away. I can't ignore what's happening between us. Jory, I say, my voice trembling. I like you. A lot. She looks at me, her eyes searching my face. I like you too, Emma, she says, her voice soft. But we should be careful. Careful, I repeat, nodding. We can do careful. We sit there for a beat longer, the engine of the car ticking as it cools. So, I say, swallowing hard. What now? She smiles, that secret little smile that makes my stomach flip. Now, she says, we go back to work on Monday, and we pretend like nothing's changed. And as we both know it's a lie, she leans in and kisses me again, her hand on my cheek. But when we're not at work, she whispers, we'll see where this goes. And just like that, we have a plan. A terrible, wonderful, terrifying plan. We'll keep it quiet, keep it ours, and let it grow at its own pace. We'll have our coffee dates and our after-work art sessions, and we'll keep the flirty Slack messages to a minimum. It's risky, sure, but it's also thrilling. Like we're in some kind of office romance novel. We'll have to tread lightly, but I'm willing to take that risk for her. Because when you find someone who makes you feel like this, you don't let them go without a fight. The weekend stretches before us, full of promise and nerves. We spend the next 2 days in a blur of text messages and phone calls, planning our secret dates and laughing over the ridiculousness of our situation. We agree to meet at a tiny art gallery downtown on Sunday afternoon, far enough from prying eyes that we can be ourselves without worrying about someone from work seeing us. And when I see her standing there, in a dress that makes her eyes sparkle, I know that I've made the right choice. Walking through the exhibit, we critique the paintings with a gentle teasing that feels more intimate than any kiss. She points out the brush strokes that make her think of me, and I show her the ones that remind me of her. We're lost in our own little world, and it's perfect. When we get to the last painting, a chaotic splatter of colors that somehow forms a beautiful landscape, she takes my hand, and we stand there in silent awe. This one's us, she says, and I look at her, surprised. It's a mess, but it works. And she's right. We're a mess. But somehow, together, we work. And as we stand there, our fingers laced together, I know that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this work. The sun is setting when we finally leave, painting the sky in shades that make me want to pull out my own brushes. She looks up at me, her hand still in mine, and says, "Let's go paint." And we do. We find a quiet spot by the river, and she teaches me how to let go, how to let the colors speak for themselves. And as the night falls and the stars come out, we sit on a blanket, our canvases side by side, and we paint. And it's in that moment, with the sound of the water and her laughter in my ears, that I know this is where I'm supposed to be. With her. Creating. Dreaming. Falling in love. And maybe, just maybe, this is the start of something incredible. Something that's worth more than any promotion or office gossip. Something that's real. The days turn into weeks, and we keep our secret. We find moments to sneak away from the office, to lose ourselves in art and each other. It's thrilling, like we're teenagers again, hiding from the world. And every time we kiss, it's like the first time. Like we're discovering something new, something only we can understand. And it's in those stolen moments that I start to believe that maybe, just maybe, we can make this work. That we can have our cake and eat it too. That we can keep our jobs and our hearts. But of course, secrets have a way of coming out. It's during a particularly dull Tuesday afternoon meeting that it happens. Someone brings up the company picnic, and suddenly everyone's laughing about the bunny dance. And there she is, sitting across from me, her cheeks pink with the memory. And when our eyes meet, we both know that we can't keep this up forever. That we're playing a dangerous game. But we don't say anything. Not yet. We just smile at each other, a silent promise that we'll deal with it when the time comes. That we'll figure it out together. And so we do. We sit down one night, after everyone else has gone home, and we talk. We talk about our fears and our hopes, our dreams and our doubts. And she tells me that she's been thinking about applying to art school, about leaving the office behind to pursue her own career. And I tell her about the novel I've been writing in my spare time, the one that's been sitting in my drawer for years, gathering dust. And we look at each other, and we know that we can't keep hiding, that we have to take the leap, together or apart. And it's then that I finally understand what she meant when she said we had to be careful. Because love isn't just about the good times. It's about the hard choices and the scary moments too. As we sit there, the fluorescent lights flickering above us, I realize that I've never been so scared and so alive. And when she takes my hand, her eyes full of determination, I know that we're going to be okay. That we're going to make this work, no matter what it takes. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find our way to a life that's more than just a job. Maybe we'll find our way to a life that's full of color and light and love. And as we walk out of the office, hand in hand, ready to face whatever comes next, I can't help but feel like we're already there. Like we're already living the life we've always dreamed of. The life we never knew we could have.